Friday is NHL Futures Day at FanDuel. What a perfect time to welcome our sports betting analyst, Todd Fuhrman, for another edition of Todd's Odds, brought to you by FanDuel. And because it's Futures Day on FanDuel on Friday, we're going to predict the future with Todd. That's one of the things that he's so good at. And we're going to begin with the awards. No surprise, Connor McDavid, the favorite to win the Hart Trophy, followed by Nathan MacKinnon, followed by Nikita Kucherov. Do you have a name that you like in this category, Todd?
I do, Jay, and I wish I honestly had a long shot that I thought could compete for this award, but I'm going to go with a guy that's often forgotten in this market, and he was actually the Hart frontrunner before his season was derailed because of injury, and that's a man who's now operating in that same tax bracket as our own Jay Onrait, Kirill Kaprizov. And when you look at his numbers and what he means to this Minnesota Wild team offensively, I mean, this is a guy that checks every box. You just hope he's still playing light on his feet and he's not weighed down by that new fancy contract that I can't even do the math because it makes my head hurt.
Speaking of new fancy contracts, a couple of young defensemen, Luke Hughes, Jackson Lacombe, they're moving that defensive AAV up, Todd, and Cale Makar and Quinn Hughes, hard to believe what they'll be making when they end up signing new contracts. But they are the heavy favorites to win the Norris Trophy this year on FanDuel. Is one of those two, Makar or Quinn, destined to win this award?
They're the most logical candidates there. I think what's also interesting, Jay, given the resurgent season that we saw last year from Zach Werenski, how much respect is being paid to his number, where it currently sits. If you're looking to try and capture a little bit of a long shot, though, I'll go further down the board, and these would be more dart throws than anything else, because one of the players I still think is rather young in terms of his overall learning curve in Lane Hudson. But we saw what he meant to this Canadiens team a season ago. And I love the fact that he logs those power play 1 minutes. At the same time, we know to win this award, you don't really have to do much on the way of playing defense for a lot of these teams. You just have to continue to stack the stat sheet. And another guy even further down the board will be Thomas Harley at 60-1. He, of course, isn't running the point for that top power play unit in Dallas. That's an honor for Miro Heiskanen. But I do like what Harley brings to the table from an offensive standpoint. I think he may have an opportunity to have his first 20-goal season of his career. And if he can raise that assist tally, you could do a lot worse than taking him at 60-1.
Boy, a lot of great young defensemen in the NHL right now. Let's talk about the divisions. Todd, I need you to pick a Canadian team to win a division. Who are you picking and why?
I mean, I'm a little bit handcuffed here. If I want to take the low-hanging fruit, I'd go back to my beloved Oilers, who are the shortest shot of any Canadian team to win a division. But, Jay, what fun would that be picking against my Golden Knights? So I think there's a little bit of an opportunity for a team to come from off the pace in the Atlantic. And I'm sorry, Maple Leafs fans, I'm not going to make a case for Toronto. But I think Ottawa, given how young this roster is, that they're not going to go through that same level of wear and tear, especially for some of their superstars, that the Olympic break could potentially contribute to. I look at Toronto trying to replace the production that won't be there without Mitchell Marner. I think Florida only cares about getting in. Ottawa's a team that checks a number of boxes if they can take that next step and really push the Tampa Bay Lightning for top honors.
You have 3 players on FanDuel that you can choose from to score 60-plus goals. Those players are Leon Draisaitl, Austin Matthews, and maybe somewhat surprisingly, David Pastrnak at 60-1. Do you like any of those 3 to hit that 60-plus number?
It's such a tough market to try and get involved in because you need so many things to go right. And, of course, I think Leon Draisaitl is priced correctly as the de facto favorite amongst this trio. I do think the number is rather short on Austin Matthews. I wonder how that top line is going to look, eventually as they get going. And they also don't play that same style that they were under Sheldon Keefe a couple of years ago when Austin Matthews was putting up video game-like numbers. So by default, if I was getting involved here, it would probably be Pasta. I just don't know if there's anywhere in the way of contributing secondary scoring or anything that close to give him the kind of push that he'll need, as he's the only real offensive weapon, in my opinion, that opposing teams will have to key on when they're matched up against the Boston Bruins.
Todd, I'm about to back you into a corner again because I know you well enough at this stage. There is no way you will give us a Stanley Cup prediction. However, if I said you had to place a wager on a Canadian team to win the Cup this season, who do you think is best positioned to make a run?
So look, Jay, I've always wanted that red carpet rollout when I find myself in Winnipeg in the middle of February, just looking for a place to try and warm my hands. So I'll make a case for the Winnipeg Jets, a price tag just shy of 20-1. I know a lot of people will point to some of the shortcomings that we've seen from Connor Hellebuck, but I imagine those to a certain extent are a thing of the past. And yes, Winnipeg doesn't necessarily have that same middle six that you'd like, but adding a player like Jonathan Toews, I think, gives them some of that championship pedigree from a leadership standpoint. And this team exceeded everyone's expectations last year. The most difficult thing that Winnipeg has in front of them is getting through that pesky Central Division. But look, I think the Jets can be right in the thick of things if they continue to get that kind of goaltending they did all year from number 37. So by default, Jay, since you didn't give me the whole board, I'm going to make a case for Winnipeg being the best value amongst the Canadian sides.
Todd, have you ever been to Winnipeg before?
I was there for literally felt like about 18 hours, and I don't remember much of my experience. I think I just got off the plane, got to the hotel, and that was about the extent of it.
Okay. Well, I've been to Winnipeg a lot of times and forgotten what I did there as well, but for different reasons. Todd Fuhrman, every week. Todd's Odds, what a beauty. Thanks for this, buddy.